stop. Before we get into the final game of the day, we do have a sick meme created at home from the fans. So let's quickly jump into that before we get into the final game discussion of the evening. How the LCO games today feels like beautiful. That's a roller coaster, by the way. So, which would be a roller coaster of emotions, I'm guessing. Am I right, Rusty? You're the analyst here.
Just remember, too many loop-de-loops can be lethal. So we need to keep within reason here on how much of a roller coaster we're on.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think it's like 7 in a row.
Oh.
Oh, is
I don't
it something
actually
to
know
do
the
with
number.
oxygen in the blood and then clotting or something like that?
God,
or?
I wish I knew
Maybe
the
blood
answer.
going
I
to your
used
head. Something like that.
Yes.
Do you want me to Google it? I can Google it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you
do
Google it, and we will talk about the teams for the final game of the evening. First off, let's talk Pentanet. Jubes, you love Pentanet. You live in Melbourne, right? So you're very fond of a few of these players that are down your way. Have you met them before?
I've worked with majority of them, 3 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's your favourite?
Well, Pabu. Only because he's like the
Jungle Bites.
like antagonist in all of the games, in all of the hype up.
Yep.
He's got that cheeky like opinion, you know, but he actually wholeheartedly believes it. But this team, I still have high hopes for, right? You know, they've stumbled, they've tripped, maybe they fell, and they've had a few rough games. But I'm actually a firm believer in it's important to lose. Like you lose, you learn a lot more. It either makes or breaks you, right? And I think this Pentanet team isn't the team to break. It's going to make them. They actually, you know, pretty much had a perfect season last split. And in all honesty, like you can't really learn as much as you learn when you lose. And so this may be a little bit of an eye-opener, and it might force a couple of them to work a little bit harder. So yeah, I'm expecting a really big bounce back from Direwolves. I just saw their name, so yeah, I'm expecting a big bounce back from Pentanet rather, and a very big performance from them. Maybe a statement game.
Well, we've heard Jube's thoughts from the team. Now we can hear from the team themselves in this nice looking, beautiful, pretty, spectacular, marvelous, eye candy-esque team profile.
Pentanet has it. Sven doesn't have it. He's chased back. He's probably going to be killed. Ladies and gentlemen, Oceania will not go silent into the
Does
night.
he have?
They will find their first win of the Rumble stage, and they will defeat Cloud9.
Every team's going to look to take us down. I think that's the biggest thing because we're like the one team that has done like the best internationally, especially in OS. But I feel like we're always going to be on top.
The experience of going to MSI was pretty surreal. We scrimmed some really good teams and we got to play a lot of games. So.
A big punishment for us when we were there is like we would get these advantages and we would just kind of relax. So we lost a lot of our early matches due to that. Once we're winning, we have like control. If we've got these early game champions, like we're just going from minute 1 till the next is exploded. Like we are just going and not giving you a chance to chill. We're not waiting for items. Like we're in your face.
But nobody's looking to try and get himself on that clock because that's Biopanther being huge. Gets himself a triple kill, Rusty.
We kind of just shit talk each other into a point where it's just a meme, and then that meme carries on to like, you know, the good vibes, good emotions.
We robbed ourselves of a perfect split. So anything less than playoffs would just be a complete failure for us.
Only thing I'm looking forward to is winning again and going to China. I don't know if you know this, my team talks a lot of shit. So yeah, people get riled up, you know, people want to beat us. So I think there's definitely a big bounty on our heads.
I want to cement myself as like the best mid, and there's like me and then everyone else is like down here. No matter like what matchups I'm playing, what champion I'm playing, I want to be able to do everything and I want to be able to doing it the best.
You guys couldn't beat us last split. We're coming into the split with the same hunger we had last split, looking to go to Worlds.
It doesn't really matter who we verse. I think we're coming in as the strongest 5 players in all 5 roles, and our team cohesion is way better than everyone else.
Well, we've won before and we're going to win again. So that's the only thing. We're going to win and you're not going to stop me.
They have to stop him. Where's the CC? Stop him, prevent him. It just doesn't matter.
It's over.
Pentanet are going to Iceland.
Well, remember, that was filmed before the split started, so it seems like Pentanet's run has not gone as smooth as planned so far, but it's still been all right. They're still towards the top of the ladder, and that's where they need to be. Now, let's have a quick chat about Direwolves. Rusty, tell me why you know him, why you love him, and is only going to summon any demons again today?
Hopefully he doesn't tell the opponent jungler to pick a specific champion so that they can lose to it in a very bad way. So we'll move beyond that. Direwolves at the moment are not a team that I'm very high on. And I think the problem is we constantly have high expectations for this team based off the roster alone. And the reason I like them is because I've always been a Claire fan, but his transition to top lane has been tumultuous at best. And that turbulence has not gotten any better in the second split, even though the meta has shifted towards more of his play style. Only's had moments of brilliance, but hasn't really been able to keep it up beyond like the 15-minute mark when the team play is more important. And we've had the obvious bottom lane issues from them that has been quite an issue to address that hasn't really gotten better with time. And time's the only thing they really have playing for them at the moment.
And what about you, Jordan? What is your favourite thing about Direwolves at the moment? Look, let's be positive. Let's think about what they're doing right rather than what's not going right for them.
Well, man, I guess for me, probably the tenacity to sort of just stick with it, right? It's been a bit of a rough split so far for Direwolves. They obviously had to start off the first couple of weeks not playing with their full 5 core, and they did relatively reasonably there. Now they've had the change. Obviously, Cupcakes come back in. It hasn't really helped out all that much, unfortunately, for Direwolves. But I think the way that they have to think about this split is that they are only 1/3 of the way through, right? It's a 3-tier round robin, so they're only one round robin through the thick of things, and things can very much change over the course of this entire split. So I wouldn't get too sold on the position that Direwolves are in just yet. We'll have to wait and see until we get a bigger sample size as to where they're going to end up this split.
All I'm calling for today is I want to see Gunkrab back on that ADC, and I want to see some of these players as well down on the side lanes. Jubes, do you have some there?
Yeah, I've got a couple. They go by the name of Shock and Decoy. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen. Deco, I never thought I'd actually get you to an interview. So thank you for coming down, man. Okay, before the game. So, gents, Shock, I'll start with you. Talk to me about today's game. Obviously a very big one. Wanting to get Direwolves, I guess, back on track. How are you feeling?
Yes, I think like everyone knows Direwolves is like a trash team at the moment. But obviously we don't want to stay a trash team. Come on! And beating Pentanet, I think, is a good way to like start turning our season around. They're looking a little shaky, so I feel pretty good about today's game, yeah.
For what it's worth, I don't think you're a trash team, okay? I think you're good players.
Oh, I do.
Decoy, okay, well, Decoy, talk to me about today's game as well. Obviously lost to your old mob, Gravitas Glory. How are we feeling now?
I think yesterday's game was really rough. I think I performed really poorly. So this win, like getting a win today, is super important for us, for the morale and going into this round robin. So yeah, hopefully I can stomp Shock.
Now let's focus on some positives, because I feel grim. I want to cheer everyone up before the game. Decoy, what are we gonna do well this game? What are we gonna do well this game?
Look, we're not gonna int lane pre 5 minutes like yesterday, and from there we're just gonna smurf. There we go.
Lovely, lovely. Shock, what are we gonna do well this game? Are we gonna put a lane kingdom on in the mid lane? Are we gonna synergize well with the jungler? Tell me.
Well, normally when I verse Chaz, he's got all his goons with him. He gets like level 3 ganked by Parba, and sometimes Decoy roams up too. So I might take him out 1v3 this game. We'll have to see how it goes.
You know what? I believe it. I like the conviction you say it with. Honestly, I've been watching your capping or gapping series, so you have to think about the content piece you're going to get out of this, okay? Now, last question from me. Shock, a win here. Are you looking towards Friday, or are we just focusing on this?
I think like we're actually focused on this game a lot. To be honest, like a lot of the other teams have lost a lot of games as well. So even though like we've lost a lot, we're actually not that far behind in points, and it's still like easy for us to make a comeback. And if people remember last split, like we started 1-3 then, and then we won like 7 or 8 games in a row. So even though like our games so far haven't looked that good, like we know we have a lot of potential, and like we'll always come back, right? So we're pretty confident that we'll make playoffs anyway.
And lads, before we send it, I'll leave you with a little bit of a dime piece. It's a marathon, not a sprint, okay? Still a long way to go. Gonna see you guys at the top. Good luck today.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
That was lovely that you gave a bit of advice to two more of
Oh,
your
they
favourite
were so-
players.
I feel like they didn't even believe you. They're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
all
all
right.
They
right,
were
Juice.
so
Yeah,
like
all right, mate,
beaten.
yep.
They were so beaten. I wanted to just come on, man. Let's go. Come on,
You
guys.
did
Yeah,
have a
good
couple
idea.
of
Let's
dejected
go.
Dannies.
Let's go straight into the predictions. You're right, Juice. Let's jump in and see where we're going to be leaning for this one. I'm excited to see what Twitch chat's going to choose because they chose Chiefs for me and threw me down one again. So I'm not onto the 20 bomb yet, where everyone else I'm pretty sure is other than me. So I guess we'll see once we get to page number 2. But Pentanet for Rusty and Elfish Guy here. Jubes, let's have a look at what you've decided to pick and tell me why.
Yeah, I think I picked Pentanet just because a little more consistency throughout the year, albeit not very consistent, but just a little more consistent than Direwolves, right? We use the quarantine hangover and the MSI hangover as a little bit of an excuse, but I definitely want to see them start to pick it up today, and I think they will.
Okay, and Rusty, what are your thoughts in terms of the draft that we're about to go into? Do you think we're going to see any picks coming out of left field, or is it going to be more towards the meta, more towards what we're expecting? Pentanet yesterday with a couple of blinders, which were counter picks, but just didn't work for them.
Yeah, so I think for Pentanet, they're trying to be more aggressive early across the board, and that is the one thing in draft that may come back to backfire pretty big and give Direwolves a potential chance into this game. Just because, again, like they went for their counter picks even on blue side, they just didn't play it well. And that is the bigger issue that we're currently facing. So for draft, I expect more aggression from them. I don't dislike the Callista pick. I actually really like it. I spoke about it at the top of the show today. So I like to see more of that and just see it be successful.
Okay, well, we'll see if that happens. Jordan, you're looking like a snack. If you guys at home want a snack of your own, exclamation DoorDash in chat. Make sure you order something good for me too. You know, I'm hungry. I'm still hungry. Always hungry. Need to keep the metabolism up. But the game's ready, so we won't keep you any longer. Final game of the day, Direwolves going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Pentanet. Here you go.
Speaking of snacks, this one actually might be quite a tasty morsel. Pentanet versus Direwolves. Both teams with a pretty rough run of form so far this split. I mean, Pentanet, I guess, doing a little bit better of it at the moment, but considering the high highs that they were at in Split 1, it's hard to see them at a 4-3 scoreline and say that it's the same team. Of course, it is exactly the same roster, but they're not performing the same way. So maybe a game here against Direwolves, who, you know, definitely haven't been up to scratch either, is what can get Pentanet back up on that horse.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Both of these teams desperate for a win to really shift the momentum going back their way. So I think you're on the money, but we could also extend that to their opponents also here. And Direwolves have gone for the LeBlanc and Shinzao as their first picks, so something that they might be taking a play from the Gravitas book. It just feels funny to say, but it's absolutely true. LeBlanc is a really prolific skirmisher. And is very good with siege composition. So you give her a Shinzao, they'll never lose a 2v2. Put it in a team fight with like your Ziggs bot lane or whatever it may be, your Ezreal bot lane. You'll have a hard time dealing with them when they get a lead.
Surely we don't get 4 Ziggs bot lanes in one day.
I mean, probably not with a LeBlanc. I'll say that. There was a chance more so. Like Gunkrab is a Ziggs player. I will leave you with that.
All right, well, we'll see how that all sort of turns out. We do get the Dr. Mundo through for Pentanet. And the Lucian, which I could imagine is probably going into the mid lane to match up with the LeBlanc. So that'll be an interesting one for Chaz to hang on to. Dr. Mundo up to top and Diana into the jungle. It looks fairly straightforward for the Pentanet roster. So far, Diana has been a champion that Pabu in particular has been very vocal about on Twitter. He's saying, you know, Freelo and whatever, but is it Freelo in the LCO? Well, I mean, he's picked it up a lot so far this split and hoping to do so again today and have a good performance with it. Do get the Lee Sin through from Direwolves as well, so both teams having now locked in their top 3 picks and we're just waiting for those bans to come through.
Yeah, looking at things that can be banned away, the center ban is interesting. Direwolves do seem to be one of the most prolific center playing teams. It does open up some creativity for Gunkrab. You know, remember yesterday was a Malphite center bot lane. So I don't mind getting rid of that. Just getting rid of the chaos, right? The unpredictability of a Direwolves draft as a result of a center simply existing. She really is the crux of all of the wacky creativity that you see down in bottom lane right now. Kai'Sa going to be taken away with that, so a lot of AD carries now starting to be addressed. And with a Karma and a Lulu already gone, options for these enchanters are dwindling.
Yeah, certainly aren't too many other ones to speak to that we see a lot.
There it
Ziggs is taken away, so we're not going to get 4 from 4 tonight. And quite frankly, Rusty, I must admit, I'm happy to see that. I like to get back to something a little bit standard in this game. See what Praedyth and Gunkrab can throw our way. Thresh not an option for Direwolves, which is obviously something that they've liked to go towards quite a lot. So we do have to wait and see actually what the support pick will be for Direwolves. It's not often that you get to see the 5th pick support.
Very animated moment there from Cupcake. Yeah, I mean, getting support counters is rare, but at the same time, you're just looking at what it is that Direwolves can do to win. You know, right, that Pentanet.gg have been playing aggressive bottom laners, and you can snowball by having the best support option or AD carry option into the mix, and it's easier, in my opinion. I am a support main, and so are you, so you'll probably just agree with me. It's a lot easier to just pick an AD carry and then pick a winning support for the matchup.
Yeah. Much rather do that than, you know, pick your support first and then your AD carry locks in an absolute int champ. And you go, well, we lose this lane now.
And listen, my key here is always pick Zyra. So Ezreal Zyra is a nasty bot lane duo. Nautilus might throw a bit of a spanner in that works, but...
I mean, I don't think Zyra's the worst matchup into Nautilus, is she?
It's a case of if you get hit by a hook, you lose.
True. Just don't get hooked, forehead.
Yeah, exactly right. And then just all the Varus spells as well. It's not the easiest lane. Plenty of other normal options, I would say here also, such as what you're seeing right now in the Braum being locked in. Ez Braum, super safe lane. And not going to be a strong side. Can be, but not going to be a strong side duo.
Yeah, nice big front line there for Gunkrab to hide behind, and I can't imagine that we're going to be seeing too many kills down in the bot lane. The same cannot be said for the top side of the map. Obviously, when you look at the Direwolves composition, there's, as you've said, a lot of skirmishing potential. The Xin combined with the LeBlanc, very, very strong 2v2 potential around those Rift Scuttlers. And Claire able to hop all over the place as well is definitely going to be a factor in those fights. Doesn't feel quite as strong, maybe for Pentanet, just with the Mundo factor taking a little bit longer to get into the game. But, you know, the mid-jungle presence from Pentanet with the Lucian and the Diana combo still also very, very strong early on in the game. So should be quite an interesting contest actually here. I feel like we've got some similarities on both of these two teams and what they want to achieve. In that the bot side, probably not a whole lot to be happening. And most of the fighting and most of the early game skirmishing is going to be happening up on the top side. So that will definitely make things a bit more exciting than maybe just the usual Ziggs shenanigans that we've been used to today.
Yeah, I think for PGG, there's a lot of necessity for the inclusion of their bottom lane, right? Like, you're probably going to have Danny doing his level 3 roams towards mid lane, just smoking it up the river. We'll see. But when it comes to team fighting, right, Varus and Nautilus are your team fight core for the whole 5v5 that they have going for them. You've got the Mundo top lane. And I do want to quickly note, and I can't state this enough, Biopanther is the Mundo player, and he has picked it, so it's a big deal. I think because he would be the biggest critic on if it's a pickable champion. So not only is Bio known as the tank player in the LCO, he has historically been the Mundo player. It's a very exciting moment for us.
That's interesting. Not something that I knew, but it certainly seems to be the kind of champion that we've seen from Biopanther quite a lot, so it makes sense. You know, I guess you've got the Mundo player, you've probably got the Diana player there as well, with Pabu being the one that seems to pick Diana more often than anyone else. And so we do have a couple of nice comfort selections there for Pentanet. And that actually might be a good little segue into an interview here with Charlie, who is obviously the coach for the Pentanet roster. Maybe we can start off there. Maybe we can talk about this draft and how some of these champions, at least towards the top side, have been the comfort champions for both Biopanther and for Pabu. Was that something that was sort of influenced by the players, or is that just sort of by happenstance and you've kind of got them just because?
Yeah, well, we just think Diana is very strong on the current patch. Interestingly enough, like, this is only his first Xin Zhao game this season. He's not really a champion he leans to a lot of. He actually likes the Diana as well, so we thought we were going to take it away from him in that respect. Mundo is a really good flex pick. You can play it top, mid, and support, so it's a very nice champion to take at the top of the draft when other champions like Lulu and Thresh are off the table. It's harder for them to straight up counter-pick Mundo like it was in the past. Players taken Lee Sin into it today, which is definitely not the best matchup in the game. It'll be able to get pushed early, but he will definitely be getting outscaled. And in general, yeah, we will outscale this game.
Yeah, I think it's something that we're quite eager to see from you guys. Obviously, 2 losses in a row. I hate to bring up, you know, the rougher times so far for Pentanet, but I think it's pertinent to talk about it. It's quite uncharacteristic, obviously, from what was a championship roster last split. What is the mood in the camp right now? Is it a little bit perturbed?
I don't want to say perturbed, but we're definitely not taking the losses lightly. Since our international showing, we haven't really had the same amount of time to really reassess and bounce back as other teams have. We're still kind of on the same track as we were when we left to initially go to MSI. I think that the meta has really come at us fast in a lot of ways. We're definitely trying to push ourselves with how we play as well. You'll see tonight we're going back to like a little bit of what we're good at. We're playing more of a scaling composition where we can fight those 3rd and 4th dragons and win, but you saw in games like yesterday and previous weeks, we're really trying hard to push ourselves, playing stuff like the Xin Zhao, playing Kalista Thresh bot lane, stuff you wouldn't have seen us play last split. So we're still on that process of trying to expand what sort of compositions we can play. But tonight it's time to get a win on the board, so we've drafted something that we can hopefully do that with.
Yeah, I feel like you've just answered my 3rd question for me there, and I was going to ask, you know, what's sort of been going wrong for Pentanet, but I'll angle this towards the current game a little bit more so then. What are you sort of hoping to achieve with this draft? What are you hoping to achieve with this composition? We were talking about it in the context of maybe you having a strong sort of mid-jungle presence here. Is that, you know, the methodology for yourselves, or what are you sort of aiming for in this game?
Yeah, so Xin Zhao and LeBlanc are probably the strongest mid-jungle duo in the game at the moment. They can very easily gank champions with the setup from LeBlanc and the easy gap close from Xin Zhao. Like, it's very, very hard. Like, from level 3 onwards, like, Chaz will have to be very scared in the mid lane, right? So we picked a champion like Lucian, who can play rather safe in the laning phase. Like, he functions well when he just gets a lot of CS. And then as the game goes on, we have more tools to start fights and to play, like, forward in those fights. Whereas Direwolf's composition lacks engage. They have the Braum, they have the Lee Sin, Ezreal. These champions want to kite backwards, whereas our composition with the Nautilus, the Diana, the Mundo, they want to go forwards. So we'll see if we can get into mid-game without falling too far behind, then we will definitely have an advantage when we group up.
All right, well, great to hear your thoughts once again. Appreciate your time, Charlie, and best of luck.
No worries, thanks so much.
All right, Rusty, you know, that was one of the more difficult ones because there was so much going on during that that I wasn't sure what I should be talking about. What should I be watching? Should I call this interview off? Because there was just so much happening.
Yeah, it was a pretty full-on first couple of minutes of gameplay, and I'm a little bit sad that we don't get to... The big thing for me, as we are seeing a trade in mid, is the decision from Only to make the play at level 1. They kill Praedyth, right? But they start the fight onto the Varus at like 1 minute 30. So he's 10 seconds late to even get to a camp. And he's going to have to do it solo. So if you're Pabu, you're watching that, you're like, I'm sorry, Praedyth, but this is amazing. I could do whatever I want. It starts to just command the whole enemy red side jungle. And as a result of that, you know, Biopanther has a 10 CS lead. He's in good stead.
And Pabu wants to take the fight too. Only, it would seem, nicely dodges the W, gets behind Only. Good trade so far from Pabu, but is there enough damage now with Claire here? It seems that Pabu has overcommitted a little bit. It looked so good until it didn't.
I mean, it was looking great until Pabu flashed to try and secure the kill with no knowledge. But you would assume the knowledge of where Claire is. Once again, Biopanther's going to ring his phone and say, good luck in laning phase, Claire. But Only now finds himself 2-1, and a significant jungle advantage is forged.
Yeah, so we have to look maybe towards the top lane and maybe the mid lane as to where we can find some advantages for Pentanet, but that might very quickly change with Only arriving up in top. Now, Biopanther, does he have the chops to get out of this one? Can he find a way to turn it back around? Spell immunity, always going to be a problem when you're trying to gank a Mundo. And Chaz teleporting up into the top lane, also a bit of a problem. But Pabu is looking for revenge on to Claire, and that's gone wrong.
Pabu,
it's gone wrong again.
What a disaster for the jungler of PGG. Pabu just back-to-back deaths. That's the 2-time int. Oh, that's the worst way to play, especially because it's not even a teleport. It's the slow journey back towards his jungle after hitting the enemy red side jungle twice in a row.
It's a real toughie. It's a real toughie. I'm not sure how you come back from that, but I know Pabu is the kind of player that can do it. Yeah, I think he really just needs to slow his game down a little bit here. Oh, that's a nice hook in from Decoy, right on top of Gun Crab. Of course, Braum exists, so Decoy doesn't really get to play the game. And overall, it ends up being a relatively even trade.
Yeah, still pretty favorable for Praedyth. Lots of control in the lane. Both AD carries have gone for tier, so just keep that in mind. They're pretty casually farming their lane. And I think their happy state is definitely just CSing and pushing. For Decoy and for Cupcake, obviously hitting spells is nice, but it's not going to be the be-all, end-all. You don't win with a single play. Only currently hovering bot side, level 6. Very fast level 6 as well, keep that in mind. Has 3 kills to his name, so he is the spookiest man on Summoner's Rift. And if you're someone like Chaz, remember Charlie mentioned this in the interview, you want to be pretty safe from level 3 onwards. Well, just keep in mind now that they've hit level 6 instead. Much more potent, given that there's 3 kills backing the Xin Zhao.
Only looks for the steal, and he's going to get it. The woes continue for Pabu. He might not even get out of here alive. Shock, Cupcake, they're both there. Kill goes the way of the support, but I don't even think it matters. I don't think Direwolves really cares. It's more about continuing to put that pressure onto Pabu than anything else.
Sadness is real, and it looks like Pabu currently, 0 and 3, just being tracked, just being measured up everywhere he goes. He's not going to have support from his team again. Like, as much as we could look towards the rest of PGG and say, where is my backup? Try being Chaz, knowing that only is nearby, and try stepping up, right? Like, there's no actual winning situation there. And I think Pabu knows that. Like, these deaths feel bad, but it's just accepting reality, moving on, and trying to get to a stage where you can fight is the only real game plan he has. He's keeping up in farm, but yeah, pressure completely gone.
Just an interesting tidbit that was brought up to me by Mr. Witherby, the producer. The first blood, the fastest in this split, 1 minute 32. The previous record was 1:47 by Kisei in week 2.
Are you going to hit that eye or what, man? Thank you.
It's all right. He's getting through it. Don't worry too much about it.
That was a really long time between hitting the eye and not. Herald jukes a lot. It's not quite Rift Scuttle levels of like faker jukes, but it's really annoying to deal with sometimes.
He's got it done.
It's gone. It's
He's
done.
got it done.
Yeah.
Where is it going to go, though? There isn't really a huge amount of prio in the mid lane. We are seeing Pentanet kick off the Dragon. Don't know that that one's going to be stolen away by Direwolves. In fact, Shock is going to be forced to get out of there pretty damn quickly. The culling invested by Chaz forces him away. Now, Shock doesn't have teleport. So we can see Chaz start to shove that mid wave in, and Shock will lose a little bit off that.
Yeah, and everything does just kind of dissipate. Right now, taking the Dragon is really nice from Pentanet because they are the ones who you would say are in the losing situation at the moment. Bot lane stability, of course, does ebb and flow. And with that, they found their chance. So full credit to them for still finding that moment. And that's the thing, right? Like, we highlighted what a disaster it has been for Pabu, Jordan. I think that's still comprehensively just the facts. But he's a very measured player and can keep his calm through a lot of that adversity. And is able to, you know, go 0-3, died his red buff, but still find a moment to play around his bottom lane and make the correct plays on the map.
Gore Drinker completed for Only. Always a nice power spike for your Xin. Finish off that first mythic item. A lot of sustain from that item. Crossfire Gauntlet, you know, you can start to talk about a few mythic items actually starting to pop up here for both sides. It's a big one for BioPanther. It's been having a good time up in top. It hasn't been anything astronomical from BioPanther, but I feel like, you know, become accustomed to that slow burn from him, where he'll just chill up in top, maybe TP around the place every now and then 20, 30 minutes into the game, he kind of 1v5s you, and you're like, well, where did he come from? We might get that today from BioPanther.
I actually don't doubt that. Bio is one of those guys who wins by, you know, death by 1,000 cuts is his play style. He's very aware of how he plays minion waves and balances map states. Nice trade mid.
Might be more than a nice trade. It might be a nice kill. Chaz flashes away to safety and now Only is in the spot of bother. Decoy might look for another hook. Oh, what was that? Only flashes forward, catches him. Well done. That was impressive.
Yeah, really nice win becomes lightning. Not enough lightning reflexes available for Chaz. Does just drop. And the jungler from Direwolves putting the team on his back, playing very nicely. But the setup was there from Shock, right? 2 chains connect back to back, all of the time purchased. Now 5-1 in scoreline, and Direwolves, they're starting to run away with this one. However, I will caveat that by saying most of the money is on the jungler. It is not a full team gapping at the moment. It is just a gapping in the jungle.
Let's have a look at this replay here. Keep your eyes peeled for Only. Very, very nice flash from him a little bit later on. Thought he was in trouble here, to be honest, but turns it back on its head.
Yeah, it was a nice little flash. I mean, the fact that you can W flash is amazing in and of itself.
I love that interaction, by the way. I feel like they've removed a lot of those kinds of interactions. You remember you used to be able to death sentence flash, and a few other champions had that kind of interaction.
I'm really glad the death sentence one's gone, to be fair.
The death sentence was a bit OP.
Yeah. Because it kind of cancels the whole animation, which is like the purpose of Thresh. But like I do agree, I like skill expression. I think adding Flash, because the game's been balanced around Flash existing, right? It is like a known mainstay. I like that they can balance abilities around it. So Xin Zhao being able to do that is kind of cool.
Turret plating will soon fall.
With a replay of up in the top lane.
What did we miss?
Did we miss a kill? Looks like he's about to die.
The briefcase has been given to him. Yeah, just gets smacked.
Even Flash there as well, so that's not fun. Just perma slows.
Yeah. I mean, death by 1,000 briefcases.
Yeah, they call them the cleaver, but I think the briefcase is a bit more deadly. Not to mention, with that Frostfire Gauntlet, you really just can't move. Once the first cleaver connects, you kind of donezo. Even as a Lee Sin, with Flash.
That is tax returns. He's coming for us all, slowly but surely.
We did see the Duskblade finished off for Praedyth down there in bot. A little quiz here for you, Rusty. I thought it was more customary to move away from the Duskblade and move towards Prowler's Claw. Has that changed in the recent patch, or is that just how things are now?
Yeah, I forget the exact thing, but there was a change to Prowler's Claw.
So Prowler's Claw got changed in that you can't use it on creeps anymore. You can only use it on champions. I don't imagine that was the biggest of deals, though.
The reason that it was initially picked up is for sure the fact that you can, like the mythic passive is flat lethality,
yeah,
which is usually why it was picked. Duskblade was always the choice before it, and even when Prowlers was the choice, there was occasionally people still going Duskblade. I don't know necessarily if that tipped it over, but we might have to hold that conversation because they're posturing very aggressively.
Well, Gunkrab, you can see not being able to put too much damage through just yet. Has actually gone for the Manamune first, which is not always the case. See if he ends up going towards Trinity Force or towards Divine Sundera.
Yeah.
Cancel out for both.
I mean, it's a really fast stack when you complete the full item.
Yep.
So just prioritizing the completion of the Muramana before the 2-item spike, and 100%, you know, when he has 2 items, he will have Muramana stacked. And will be at the ultimate point of strength that an Ezreal can be at before, of course, your Serilda's 3 items slow. I don't mind it. Again, like we highlighted, bot lane's actually just nothing doing at all. So they're able to afford to just farm like this. The game is pretty heavily just revolving around, first of all, junglers, because there's clearly an absolute lethal weapon running around on Direwolf's side. But mid lane and how they actually situate themselves around the map, because we haven't really seen any action around turrets. Claire has, of course, the top lane outer turret has fallen, so Claire's got some freedom to move. But AD carries have kept their feet planted bottom for so long that we've really seen no change in pace.
Been very hard on the attempt to get this mid tower down. Only is going to go again on top of Pabu. Gets a knock up at a nice time. Reconnected on the W, but can't chase over the wall. Never mind. He's managed to catch Decoy. There was always going to be something. Only flashing over the wall. Has flashed to his death. Chaz with the culling. getting the majority of that damage there. And, well, BioPanther is here for the routine interview. Just wandering all over the place. Doesn't really care too much about what's going on around him. He's still surviving, staying alive. And down in the bot lane, the two ADCs playing with one another. Just sending it backwards and forwards is what it is.
Yeah, they've got their own little mini game going on down here. Just chilling. Muramana has been completed, so a bit of a spike there, Duskblade. As you can see, they're hitting each other. It's not completely non-interactive gameplay. It is not wet noodle tank fights. Just AD carries postured on the wrong side of the map for where the fighting is happening. Only gives a shutdown as well there. So I think you'll be pretty happy with that one if you are Pentanet.gg as a trade. Even though it started pretty poorly. Yeah, exactly. Money in the right hands and a shutdown at that.
See what he can do with it. Gale Force is on cooldown, so we won't expect to see too much from Chaz in the next 20-30 seconds. Always feel like that Gale Force, once it is online, really enables a lot for the champions that do opt to go for it. Again, BioPanther happy to just find himself in the top lane. Slowly but surely clearing the creeps.
So we are at a point now, though, right? Like not only has there been a bit more stability purchased by PGG, they've started to equalize some of the fights. You can see the total gold now. Chaz has worked his way up the list. BioPanther, the slow but steady. Ooh.
Well, it's a bit of a messy fight here to start things off. Decoy does drop, and that might actually be all that happens. Never mind, I've spoken a bit too soon. Pabu over the wall, and Praedyth is in there as well. This is starting to look better and better for Pentanet. Only can dash away to the creeps, but he can only get so far, and eventually chased down. BioPanther does want those taxes, and he's going to get them. And in the end, this is looking very nice for Pentanet now.
Bio once again gives them the business, and while it looks like it's a pretty rough start for the side of PGG, they just have numbers faster and already in the area, and that is just a bit of class coming out of the squad, right? Direwolves have sat at that same bush, and they've stopped them, they've tried to staunch them, but ultimately, too many people there, too fast, and they continue the fight.
They're still not going to get that mid tower either. Direwolves have been trying desperately to open up that mid tower, and it's so low. But it's still surviving. A little bit of a question mark ping on top of Praedyth and Decoy as they appear right in front of Shock there. He thought he was going to get it. I think it was a bit of a frustration ping. Shock's going to go over the wall. Locks up Decoy for a second, but back to safety as he does spot Praedyth out.
But Decoy is showing right now that he's effectively useless. He'll hit the hooks and he'll have an aftershock, but he is pretty much, and I think we can acknowledge that, destined to die in a fight. Just given how much damage can be littered towards him. But still can do his job, so it's not of massive concern.
Yeah, I think it's fine, especially when you see BioPanther roll in behind him, and okay, maybe Decoy will die, but I tell you who's not going to die at this point. It's BioPanther. He barely seems to be taking any damage, and has just finished off his second item as well, so he's really feeling quite comfortable and pretty tanky in all of these fights, which is great news. You've mentioned that he's a very confident Mundo player, and that seems to be ringing true. Now let's see what Claire can do to survive against Pabu and Chaz. The culling on top of the Moonfall will force the kick and the flash from Claire. So he'll get out alive.
Herald to be summoned, however, so Claire being forced to base, it could be a charge onto an inner turret, and we'll see how Direwolves choose to play this one. Only teleport available is in fact on Claire, and Decoy has been mostly missing, is about to show for the first time. If that's 2 turrets, for the cost of the mid lane outer turret and Dragon, you'd say that's mostly an even trade, right? Now that they've given more money towards this structure, there's an actual tangible gold benefit to pushing here.
Yeah, it looks like Chaz is going to get it.
Yeah.
Down in the bot lane though, Direwolves will respond with one of their own. Dragon's also not a bad pickup.
Well, it's 2 turrets apiece, right? Plus the Dragon. So you'd say it's a net win for Direwolves overall.
Wow.
But still, it's like, for me, the reason that I call this out is because it does seem like Pentanet are kind of matching them now. It's only 1,000 gold difference. They are still well and truly within a fighting chance. You've got your 0-3 Diana, but she has a stopwatch, so Diana is ready to team fight. That's just the way it goes. Probably be Zhonya's rushed second, because that makes sense. You want to still be relevant all game, and Zhonya's is a broken item.
Yes.
I stand by that statement for all time.
Trinity Force for Gunkrab again, so another one for another Ezreal. Seems that Divine Sundra certainly has fallen out of favour. Do have the 2 Gore Drinkers for the Direwolves, top and jungle respectively. It's a lot of sustainability.
Yeah, and speaking of sustainability, it's the Bloodthirster for Chaz. Which overshield's nice against burst champions like LeBlanc. It's nice to sustain against poke champions like Ezreal. Of course, Praedyth has neither of those things readily available, given that he has lethality. But I do think this actually puts Chaz in really good stead.
Oh, Claire. I mean, he doesn't really have any recourse there, does he? Biopanther's just sitting under the tower saying, what are you going to do?
You can't even chunk him out. He's got Warmogs.
Yeah. Well, Only's found Chaz, but Chaz has Gale Force, and so he's over the wall.
Gale Force relentless pursuit at that. The W did connect, but I think not knowing who's on the other side of that wall is a pretty spooky territory to venture into blind. Doesn't want to dash under that one, even though the challenge was issued.
I did see a little bit of a combo coming through from Gunkrab earlier on onto Praedyth, the ultimate and the Q. It's starting to ramp up the damage, so I always like to keep an eye on the Ezreal as that 2 item mark starts to tick over, because I think that's where it starts to be pretty relevant in terms of his damage. And so we are starting to see that mark being hit by Gunkrab. And while things have been a little bit slow in the last few minutes, there's still movements being made by both teams. I mean, Pentanet, they're largely, I feel like, getting their advantages from Biopanther right now. Wherever he is on the map, there seems to be a turret falling. The Direwolves are looking for openings as well. Shock actually gets hooked up by Decoy, who is going to flash out to what would almost be considered safety, but given he's so squishy, certainly not the case here. Claire did have a Sonic Wave available onto Praedyth, chose not to go for it. And so it's a 1-for-0 for Direwolves so far, but now Biopanther's decided he wants to play the game, and the rest of Direwolves are probably not too happy to see that, because he is very tanky indeed. It's a bit of a dance, isn't it? Oh, there we go. Pabu has found the entry that he wanted, but Direwolves respond in kind. Praedyth is dead again. It's down to Chaz, it's down to Biopanther, and well, Biopanther is really just not taking any damage at this point, does he? Briefcase onto Gunkrab. He's going to eat away, but where are you going to go? Oh, maybe to safety, it seems like, because Biopanther finally has been brought down. That Juggernaut is dead.
That was actually really interesting as a team fight, because the timing of Pabu going in coincided with Claire doing the exact same thing. So both teams engaging on each other, and the fight completely flips on its head. You know, front lines become back lines. The only thing that remains true is that Biopanther is a tank. And he did 4,300 damage in the last team fight as a tank. Shout out Decoy for getting a free blue buff. I mean, that's an absolutely absurd figure to just look at, and I'm sure we'll get to see him dealing damage in this entire fight. But the person I want to look at here is Claire, because this Q ward-hops to Praedyth, and it was a nice engage from Pabu, but Praedyth instantly dies, right? The person who's meant to be the safest on the back line, Claire gets free access to that one and is able to influence his team fight massively. Because think about how different this could have been, right, if the kick was on anyone else.
Yeah, just felt like Pentanet didn't quite have the legs in the fight that Direwolves did, and granted it was pretty much a 4v5 from the outset. I think they did relatively well considering. Biopanther a very big threat, so is Chaz. True Shot Barrage will go through, doesn't really connect onto much. And again, Pentanet starting to posture. They have to be so careful. LeBlanc has been a real factor in this one. 3-0 and 5. Shock on the flank. They know where the LeBlanc is, but doesn't stop the mid laner from being a threat here. And Shock just blows up Pabu. Now, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know where she is, but what are you going to do about it?
And can you even stop her, right? It's only the third Drake of the game, so it's not something that I think PGG needed to force their way into contesting. But they positioned themselves in a way that did feel like they were ready to force. Shock just shuts the door on that one and says there's no chance that you're going to get into this to contest that at all. And Direwolves, not only do they get the Drake, they'll get a kill. They'll also be able to flip the map to topside and reset, deploy towards Baron buff, and have a lot of potential control there, as the 0 and 5 Pabu just could not quite get that zonies off in time, it seems.
Yeah, that's never a fun time. Makes you fearful of going anywhere, whether you know where the LeBlanc is or not.
Yeah, unless you're this guy, you're afraid. That's where we're at.
And I mean, LeBlanc isn't even the only threat on this team now either. Gun Crab's finished off those 2 items. He's starting to get rolling on towards that third, 286 CS. He 0-0 and 3, but he's doing some real damage. Only 5 kills. I mean, he is a Xin, so he's kind of starting to fall off in a sense in terms of his damage and output in that respect, but I think you still have to respect it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Xin Zhao, we've had this conversation a few times across the whole broadcast, but Xin, he drops off, right? But look at the enemy composition and things that will be damaging him. He doesn't really drop off. If the Dino was fed, you could probably still say that he's going to drop out of this game. But you've got Lucian, Culling's not going to hit. Lucian at range is probably not going to be hitting him. And dashing in is pretty dangerous against Direwolves. And you've got a Varus, who's a lethality poke Varus. So there's a clear window where the Xin Zhao ults and you just do 0 damage to him. So I would consider that really good scaling. Because in the same sense that I think Azonia's Hourglass is broken, I think being completely invulnerable to certain sets of damage is also really strong.
Look, it's also one of my pet peeves, wind walls and anything of that that manner. A little bit how you going, I think.
Yeah,
Gwen's in, you start to see it come through. It's a bit of a trend that's coming up these days lately, so I'm thinking,
Samira.
Yeah, not sure. But anyways, topic for greater minds than mine. Claire is actually going to engage onto Biopanther. I mean, I guess he's won that trade, but it is a Mundo, so inevitably he's just going to heal that HP back on up and say, well, okay, cool. I guess that's fine.
I mean, these trades are not fruitful for Claire. They exist. At the current moment, Bio has been taking minion aggro, so Warmogs wasn't on, but back he goes, full health.
Yeah.
Nothing doing. Chaz currently actually is the gold leader. That's quite a big shift. Both mid laners, of course, getting a lot more farm as you hit mid to late game. Getting a lot of priority from their team, starting to pop off.
It's a very slow and steady game. Nearly 30 minutes in. Ocean Soul is a factor. That's going to be popping up in 2 minutes, and so that'll be an important fight for Pentanet. They didn't really get the opportunity to contest the last dragon because Pabu just got blown up by Shock. So they'll definitely be looking to do so here. I gotta say, I think Claire's handling himself relatively well in the side lane against Bio. Oh, that one's not going to be a connection.
You said it.
A bit of a caster curse there. I was just, you know, I wasn't minding how he was sort of going about it, clearing those waves, but now he seems to be in a bit of a problem because, I mean, what can you do against a Mundo that's this strong? The kick won't push him away, and Biopanther gets the kill. I mean, that's the caster curse of the century.
That's a really big caster curse.
I'm sorry, Claire.
It's terrible luck. Biopanther also has teleport, and you can see the Direwolves were responding to him. This is actually currently a monstrous bio-gapping. Baron basically gone. They're looking to push mid instead, maybe still a red buff away. And the correct call here is contest and take some gold away. Don't contest the Baron, because that was hopeless.
Yeah. Look, what I was trying to say was that Claire's just been sort of... He's been dealing with the Mundo. Like, he hasn't been winning the lane or anything like that, but he's been keeping him in check. And it has meant that there wasn't a lot of side lane pressure until that point. And as soon as there is that massive amount of side lane pressure, Bio gets that solo kill, you instantly see what the response is from Pentanet.
And what we've learned is don't make business deals with Mundo.
Yeah.
You can't deal with him. You just have to accept reality. Biopanther, definitely a monolith in this game. Very hard to take down. With his third item completed here as well, Jordan, is basically impossible. Because that shield is going to be huge.
Well, what are they going to do about it? What's Shock going to do about it? He's 4-0 and 5 on this LeBlanc.
Well, they've got 3 people flanking and no one defending the turret. So what are they going to do about it?
Well, that's the question. And the answer is, at the moment, nothing.
The map is flipped. Why is the map flipped?
Direwolves are trying to clear the creeps in mid, but that's not going to save the inhibitor. Cupcake's behind. Gun Crab is close by. Ooh. Just Arcane shifts out. And engage onto Cupcake. Maybe not exactly what Pentanet is looking for. They don't commit for it. The culling forces Shock away, and you just think about the ease of execution right now for Pentanet versus for Direwolves, and it just doesn't seem like Direwolves can find the angle for the fight. Whereas Pentanet, all they have to do is say Biopanther, walk at them, And that seems to be pressure in itself.
Only may want to int to try and steal this one away.
Prated to steal, by the way, just now.
Can't get in. That's Ocean Soul denied. Fights on.
It certainly is. But is it really? Because Pentanet don't seem to be committing to it just yet. There goes Decoy straight in on top of Claire with a hook. And he might fall, but the rest of Pentanet is going to get out of there alive. Might have spoken too soon. Claire with a Sonic Wave over the wall does get the better of Pabu. And now the fight's on for real. Now Direwolves are in for the chase. True Shot Barrage connects onto Praedith. And all of a sudden, Gun Crab activates. That's a couple of big kills for him.
That's
Ezreal
huge.
Always a factor.
Wait, they also have a minion wave here. So consider how long the death timers are. 25 seconds on Pabu. Decoy not necessarily relevant for defending a Nexus. I'm just saying, like, I don't necessarily know if they'll go to end. If I was Direwolves, I'm pushing to end here.
Oh, I think that's a risky prospect.
Absolutely it is. It's what I would take.
They're not going to.
Such a dicey situation. For PGG, they deny Ocean Soul, and you want to say it's a win, but for the cost of 4 members' lives and an inhibitor, it's definitely not. We'll watch this one more time. You see Bio obviously is unkillable. Cupcake flashes in, and it's just about locking members down one at a time. The sticking power that Direwolves have is unreal, right? You've got Lee Sin, LeBlanc mobility, Ezreal mobility, and they just keep coming for you time after time. It's one person after the other. Massive Ezreal ultimate here as well from Guncrab. Looking at Biopanther and hits the no-look ult onto Praedith. Big stuff.
Yeah, just when Pentanet gets an advantage, you see one pulled back by Direwolves. It's a very back and forth game. Decoy really wants to make sure that that blue's going to go to Pentanet and not to Direwolves.
If there's one thing he's secured this game, Jordan, it is blue buffs.
Yeah, Pabu gets that one. And now Pentanet look to respond. So, a few supers heading in their direction, but that's not going to stop them from taking the turret down. How much further can they push this, though? Biopanther's in the mid lane, so I don't think Direwolves should be too scared of this fight.
Big damage as well, and that's on someone who can't sustain. So that's probably going to be enough to deter them, honestly. You've also got Claire, whose wave in the top lane is now starting to actually crash. And you'll most likely see a full reset, come in with a deploy to mid. And the thing with bottom, I like what PGG did there. There's nothing on the map to stop them from pushing the wave where the super minions are. So what is effectively meant to be a persistent point of dead Pabu's pressure for Direwolves wasn't. It is now. Geez, shock.
I really want to see Juice interview Pabu after this game. That would be a fun time, I reckon.
You reckon it'd be fun?
We'll see. We'll see if Pentanet can win. I mean, he's not getting an interview if Direwolves finish this game off, you know? And it kind of seems like Direwolves is in the driver's seat right now. Shoving that top wave in. They're putting that pressure in mid. Biopanther's doing what he can in bot, but it's kind of a non-factor at the moment. Unfortunate as it is to say.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously currently a non-factor. He's dealing with super minions as a tank, and cleavers only do so much. Right now, we've got a 24 Magi stack LeBlanc. No deaths on both LeBlanc and Ezreal for Guncrab and Shock.
Oh!
Shock!
Has he bitten off more than he could chew? Well, if the culling was angled correctly, he might have. Chaz won't get anything from that one, though.
Baron in 30 seconds is the play here. Shock has teleport still, so that's not a horrible trade in the end. And Chaz has sustained, so I think neither of them are super upset. The play is around Baron. Biopanther has parked himself in bottom lane for so long to ensure that they have control of bottom lane. And here we go again.
All right, Claire is going to try and take it to Biopanther. Now, again, it looks like it's a good trade, but Biopanther just walks off for 5 seconds. He's full HP again. Man, look at that. Fast healing. Didn't use ultimate either, by the way.
No need. You know, they've with the changes to Mundo's ultimate, I think it's just better to use it when you're low health. So you'll never really see the moment Bio presses ult and is unstoppably large. Usually you'll see it used to give a bit of rejuvenation in a fight.
Yeah. Well, Shock is doing a lot of damage. I think that was only 1 Q onto Chaz only. Might have been caught out here, but there's barely any damage going down on top of him. The ultimate was too good, keeping him alive. And then to the back line goes Claire. He's got a huge shield to play with. Shock on the flank is going to be a factor in just a second. Biopanther down, Decoy down. Frontline is gone for Pentanet, and they are on the ropes. They're running, they're doing what they can. Pabu might try to turn. He's really got no other option, but that's never going to work. Praedyth was caught off screen as well, and that is a clean wipe from
There's a teleport flank here from Shock, so the mid laners are about to duke it out.
Oh! And I almost thought Shock was going to hit there, jumping right into the culling, but never mind, because he's just got so much damage that Chaz is dead, Pentanet is dead. That might be the game.
And Direwolves, a team that we touted as 7th place in the LCO, have taken it to Pentanet.gg and put them potentially 0-2, or confirmed 0-2 on the week, Jordan. Crazy outcome.
Yeah, Nexus towers are going down. Direwolves, they've been hunting for a win, and they're going to find one. A 3-5 scoreline for them now in Split 2. The issues compound for Pentanet as well. It's a big win for Direwolves, but it's equally a massively crushing defeat for Pentanet, where you just look at them and you think, what on earth is going on?
Claire definitely is going to be someone sitting there, patting the rest of his team on the back and saying thank you for that one. Huge, right, captain's performance, you'd have to say, coming out of Shock. Gunkrab just being solid all game. Cupcake seemed fine as well, right? Like, there was no inconsistencies there from the Braum. The team fights were good. At the end of the day, Direwolves did look like the better team, and it started strong early. It's just that there was that mid-game massive set of hiccups back-to-back that really put the ball in Pentanet's court.
All right, Mac, let's bring you back in here. Let us know what you thought about that game. It was a rough one for Pentanet once again. And
Mate, look, let's not focus on the negatives. Let's focus on the positives. Direwolves, they're back. They're looking good. We finally got to see Gunkrab on the ADC, and look what can happen. Am I wrong, Rusty?
I mean, you saw them win. He was on an ADC. I'm not going to argue with you on that point.
Beautiful. That's all the points I got. Now, you tell me why this happened, how this happened, and break it all down for me.
I mean, most of it happens not around Gunkrab being on an ADC. Just to quickly bring that one back, a lot of this was early leads made around the jungle. Only with a huge early start, right? They get a level 1 kill, late invade for a kill on Praedyth. Results in a red buff and vertical jungle start, but it just kept going, right? And then Pabu back to back. And it's the most tragic thing you've ever seen. Just goes top, dies, goes top and dies, and the amount of time that he's wasted, right? That was just a comprehensive lead for the jungle role, and that was all Direwolves needed. Barring the mid-game hiccups and chances that they still gave to PGG, it wasn't clean, but Direwolves still had enough gas in the tank.
And also, just while we're on the point of that first blood you mentioned, it was now the fastest first blood in this split at 1 minute and 32 seconds, or 1 minute and 32 seconds. So big dub there for Direwolves, now making history in Split 2 of the LCO. So doing good work and, you know, taking a early aggression, which got them a dub. So, you know, even though they were in 7th, we may see them move up to a tied 6th spot now. I believe we will see them shuffle up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. Jordan, anything to take from the stats here, though?
Oh, feels bad, man, for Biopanther, you know? That's one of those games where you're playing solo queue and you're just like hard carrying and there's just nothing you can do. I mean, he was getting so much work done in those side lanes. He was tanking up so much. He's even dealt more damage than everyone else on his team, and he still doesn't get the win. So, yeah, definitely a feels bad man moment for Biopanther.
Yeah, Braum as well, you know, the pick there for Direwolves. Was it the answer to the Naught in the end? I saw a few times that did a couple of saves there as well, Rusty.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an answer to the Nautilus so much as it was just a good pick for Direwolves. And I think actually what Charlie mentioned early in the interview was the most important thing here. One comp was meant to go forwards, one comp was meant to kite backwards. And a lot of these fights started as a result of someone just getting caught by the one person of Direwolves that can go forwards. And what a difference that makes.
Okay, well, let's bring Jubes back into the conversation. Jubes, what are your thoughts on the game initially here?
Oh, it was an absolute barn burner. It was going both ways. It was going the side of Pentanet. Like, okay, this game's as good as done. And then Shock would come back and play a little bit like Faker on the Blanc. Only would come in and do things. And it was a tug of war until it wasn't. Until Direwolves got a firm grip. And the moment that I think was the turning point was when I checked in with Shock and I saw the book. and the book had about 15 pages in it or 14 pages in it, whatever it was, and he was really just starting to take over that game.
There you go. So who do you have for the post-match interview?
I have the man, the myth, the legend, Cupcake.
What's up, man?
How are we? How are ya?
Yeah, feeling good. Feeling good. It was a much needed win. So, yeah, good spirits.
That was going to be my first question. I mean, it was going to be how are you? But then also it was going to be, what did the Wolfpack have for breakfast? Because this was a completely different team.
Honestly, we had like a motivational video that we all tuned into on Discord before the match and we watched it. And, you know, maybe we're just going to have to do that before every match now. It just kind of struck a chord. And yeah, we were definitely hungry for the win.
Release.
Definitely, definitely.
What was the video? Obviously, if you can't say, you can't say, but...
Right. No, it was like emotional and hype moments of Worlds in all of the past years. Just like the interview with Dyrus and then like Reckless and then like awesome Worlds plays. Yeah, just got everyone in the mood. So and we also want to win and not be at the bottom of the table. So that helps.
Fair enough. I respect that. I respect that a lot. Trust me. So have you guys been doing a lot of work with the psychologist or psychology, or is it more or less just I think this will work, guys? Let's give it a crack.
It was just impromptu, to be honest. Our coach just whipped it out of nowhere, and I think it helped a lot for us to take a bit of a shift in the draft because we were having a lot of lanes of like losing priority, and we finally picked some more standard front to back and kind of back to our roots from the first split where we had a lot more success than we are currently having. So we're just trying to tweak a few things and find our footing again to make it in time for playoffs.
Yeah, and do you have anything to say, I guess, to either your team, your fans, the supporters? I know you guys, being veterans in the scene, have so many people watching, supporting, fingers crossed, hoping for that late surge. And I mean, I say late surge, but we're really only one way, you know, through the first round,
right.
First round robin. So yeah, anything to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anything can happen come playoffs, and we're going to make sure we're going to make it to playoffs, and we're going to find our footing, we're going to find our identity. And yeah, the 7th and the 6th place doesn't mean anything in the long run, so keep watching. We'll bounce back.
It's good to see you back, Cupcake, and really happy for you, the boys. Yeah, pass on our congratulations. I'm sure they're probably watching the VOD back anyway. Shout out to the team, good job. But yeah, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, mate.
Getting another dub and gracious in victory. So
Yeah.
there you go. Now, let's talk about the player that delivered it. Jubes, I noticed that you probably didn't see it. Do you have anyone you would like to name as the honorary player that delivered, which may not be?
You might want to check Discord and see what I actually said.
Oh, well, you've seen it then. Anyway, so the player that delivered from DoorDash was, of course, Shock for this game, the final game of the day. Shock just tearing it up in mid lane, 72% kill participation, no deaths, 8 kills and 8 assists as well. So doing a huge amount of work there for Direwolves today at mid, going toe-to-toe with Chaz and making light work of the game. Although it wasn't easy in the initial stages, it certainly was a game that he probably won't forget for a while because he didn't sound super hyped at the start of the game in that pre-game interview, but he certainly brought it in the server, Rusty.
I mean, we know the potential that Shock has as a mid laner, and it's definitely really rewarding to see that, if not for just one game coming out of the mid laner of Direwolves. And I think ultimately what I would be asking here is, Juves, do you want to say your quote from the Discord out loud for everyone?
No, I'm happy to say it. I said if Shock doesn't get the play that delivered this game, I quit.
Oh, okay. Well, looks like you certainly enabled Shock to get the DoorDash player that delivered today.
Well, I mean, the way he played the game, like, LeBlanc is, if you don't mind me going in a quick rant, up to you. Do we have time?
Rant away. Rant away.
LeBlanc is a champion that also, like, it can one-shot you. Like, Pub, you got one-shot many a times that game. But also, it's more or less like a poke champion now. And what I mean by that is, like, she distorts in, she lands a combo, she uses the ultimate, and then she goes back out. Someone's on half health, rinse and repeat, and you just dance around objectives like that to the point of which they're all within lethal range, at least the important members. And I think Shock, you know, at a point, didn't have that many kills, but the influence he was having just from chunking those members down whether it was the Varus, whether it was Parbu, he just found those windows. And I think for me, like, when you find those windows and those 1%ers, those 5%ers, you really just change the tide of the game. And I think Shock was just key to that.
Well, he did such a good job. Now, let's have a quick chat about the play of the day. Do we have any nominations from you guys here on the desk? Rusty, you first.
I can't think of anything. Can you go to me last?
Well, you can be last. Okay, we'll do the reverse order. Jubes, you're first.
The play of the day would probably have to be one of the Direwolves. Dude, I'll be honest with you, it's all a blur for me at the moment.
All right, well, Jordan, do you remember anything from today?
I didn't start writing it down.
No. Nobody remembers anything. What a crazy day of games.
It's peace.
I was thinking
with
peace
a team
as well.
fight.
I think Halo had a couple of nice shockwaves.
Piece of the team fight the dragon. Late
At
game.
the dragon. Well, it might be at the dragon.
Oh,
Jordan, you're on the nail on the head. You're on the nail on the head, and I hit it, so you got squished. But it is Halo with the 3-man shockwave somewhere, but it's on the other side of the map. It looks like it's over on the top lane, and it is big enough. Let's have a look here. Jubes, you got the Jubes by Jubes ready?
Yeah, I mean, so Halo really just living up to his namesake in this passage of play, if you know what I mean. We'll let this one just fizzle out real quick because it is a little bit of an extended one. Little Babbitt, Horsey goes for a little bit of a ride here.
I love how Halo just stands there and thinks, should I flash? Should I flash?
Yeah,
I want the kill.
Anyway, so Halo just TP's in here. Diana goes in, Swade goes in, and you think, oh no, it's all over for the Peace Esports. But Halo comes in, and I can see you, Halo. Lands the Swampera, hits the ultimate. Babbitt just comes and picks up a donation, speeds the Horsey, and he goes, nay! And then Babbitt gets over the wall, hits level 6, absolutely does not need to use the ultimate. Halo flashes on over, gets the kill, and yeah. You like that sound?
Yeah, that was
very
ready.
impromptu.
How'd you manage to do it again? Do it again. Do it again.
Do it? I'll show you. Watch my lip.
Do you do it on one side?
Yeah, one side.
How can you do that on command without like grinning and ruining your flabby cheek?
Because I actually, I'll be honest, I did want to give it a crack to be a caster one day, and I was like, well, if I'm ever casting a Hecarim game, what do I do? And then if Hecarim's just charging in, I go.
I can't do it on command though because I can't help but grin, and then you just can't go. You know,
a few too many nays at the current moment for me.
This is feeling like an order.
Come on, Rusty, you got to have a crack.
No, I'm getting uncomfortable. This is not an ASMR stream.
The best way to get through the uncomfortableness is just join in, Rusty. Look, go ahead.
No, I can't get through the pressure now.
There's no pressure.
No,
no
there
pressure.
is. There's too much. I'm not doing it.
You've only got a dog in your room, mate. There's no pressure
producer,
at all.
are the standings ready? Do you want to bring them up for me? Just engage this.
I think
could be
I
ready.
think producer actually
Oh,
said
amazing. We've got the standings.
Producer said there was a technical difficulties.
I had a bus.
Not
I had a
ready.
bus I wanted to throw Rusty under. All right, I wanted him to be part of the boys. Don't be left out, Rusty. Now it looks like Peace aren't left out on the top of the leaderboard after that dub today either. 6-2 up there with Chiefs right now. Third, we only have 2 of those now. Gravitas and Order 5-3. So get them while they're hot, or they're going to be gone. We might have a second. We might have a fourth. Imminently. 5th, Pentanet sitting there at 4-4, so only just in playoffs contention at the current moment. Direwolves with a W, putting them in 6th, up with Legacy 3-5, and Mammoth still yet with a W, although it was close today in the second game of the day. They did just fall short. So I'm going to throw this one over to you, Rusty, considering you didn't nay. What would be the craziest situation on this leaderboard right now?
Well, from the moment that Pentanet.gg got verified on Twitter, they haven't won a single game.
Oh, wow.
Let it be known that social media is not good for your health. That's my takeaway. Currently 5th in the standings is my standout. Peace, of course, having head-to-head is the most interesting thing coming into the consecutive round robins, however, as they're both looking at front runners for first place.
Oh, and at the moment, so that could be something that might have influence later on in the split, is Pentanet and Direwolves now are 1 apiece. So, if something happens and they're both hovering around the middle of the leaderboard towards the end of the split, then head-to-head could still go either way once we do get into that third round of the round robin. So, anyone else want to put their hand up and have a quick chat about that while we look at the schedule coming in for Friday? Of course, it is the Super Week. We are going to have 3 games here. Jordan, quickly before I go through them, which is your favourite game here?
I mean, I got to say, I'm instantly drawn towards that Pentanet versus Peace game. And I think maybe that's just a little bit of the split one bias kind of showing through because, quite frankly, the way that both teams have been looking at the moment, I don't know that it's going to be an amazing game. I really hope that it will be. And I think a lot of that does rely on what Pentanet can do overnight for the next couple of nights because they do have a lot to work on. If they show up like that against Peace, they're going to get demolished. So we know that Peace and Pentanet have had some really, really good, battles in the past, and I think Peace, they could run into a pretty difficult opponent, but a lot of that really does just depend on what Pentanet's going to get up to. The rest of the matches, I think Order and Legacy actually could be quite a good one too.
Yeah, I think that I'm looking at that and thinking it might be the closest one. I kind of hope that Peace and Pentanet is the closest and best match of the day. But from the form we've seen from both the teams at the moment, I'm not even sure if it's going to be. Even that first game looks like it could be a bit of a pop-off game as well. So I'm really loving this split. All these teams, like all the bottom, have just lifted up so far. The top seems to have fallen a little bit. And it just makes the competition so much more interesting when you go into all of these games.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. If you're a fan of League of Legends, you have to be watching the LCO, and not even biased, dude. You literally you grab your grandma, you grab your grandpa, grab your auntie, your uncle, you plonk them down on the couch, you chuck it onto the TV, you put this league on the TV because it's undoubtedly the most hotly contested league. From 6th and even from last to first, anyone can win. And to be honest, if it's not a family affair and there's no DoorDash involved, what are you doing?
Well, I have one question before we do close the show, gentlemen. What are we going to be doing with our days off tomorrow? Anyone?
Playing League of Legends.
Oh.
Probably.
Safe
On
bet.
stream, by the way.
On stream.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah? Do you want to just plug that quickly?
I mean, look, it's just because you asked. Twitch.tv/ElfishGuy11. I'm actually about to hit Plat 1. Pretty good at the video game. Might even hit Diamond this season. Really depends on how hard I try. It's easy for me. I don't ever get team gapped. I just win every game.
Right, what about you, Jubes? Are you going to be streaming or are you going to be working hard?
I've actually got football.
Ooh.
So I need to go play some football and build up the cardio strength to actually do the sounds that are required of me when I cast a video game.
You're back to 100% from the injury, Juice?
Definitely not. I'm crippled, I'm limping, and I'm doing my best.
He's the goalie now.
Hopefully you stay healthy through that. What about you, Rusty? What's your plans for the day off?
Just a quiet day in a country town, mate. Not a lot to do out here, let me tell you.
Yeah,
how humble is he?
It's a bit bloody boring out here.
How humble is this guy? Quiet day in a country town instead of saying, yeah, I'm just going to bloody deadlift my absolute max. might be double your body weight, but that's fine.
Don't get me started on the gym. I'll talk your ear off.
Yeah, just a quiet day. You know, walk the dog around the town a couple of times, see some roos, as you do out in the country. Of course, I'm just going to be sleeping and energizing myself for the big third day of the Super Week, which is going to be Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the DoorDash LCO today. We will see you on Friday for much more action. Look after yourselves, stay safe tomorrow, and we'll see you on Friday.
Gravitas looking for the end.
Well, Legacy's going to have to do something about it. Mega Inferno Bomb goes right on top of Safa, but he was safe. Didn't take any damage, and I just don't see it coming through right now for Legacy. Nexus is open. Gravitas looking for it, looking for another win on the board, and there they have it. Legacy will move to 3 and 5, and Gravitas to 5 and 3. Disappear.
Pick the bush. They have picked the smallest bush.
Well, they waited patiently for the Dragon, and now they've got it. See if they can actually secure it. This could be big for Kevy. Mega Inferno Bomb combined with Kevy's Smite results in an Ocean Soul for Order.
Chiefs have picked a bush. They've been spotted in the bush by a sleeper. Unfortunately, that's it.
Well, Babip decides now is the time to go, and he does go, but he's really running around in the Baron Pit or the Dragon Pit, not doing a whole lot, so he's going to have to wait, see what Chiefs can do with that time. Again, another good shockwave from Halo, and Appy will exterminate Dragku. Now it's on. Babip joins the fight once again. Appy, essentially 2 versus 1, and he's winning it. And in the end, there isn't really a whole lot here for the Chiefs, given there's barely any damage going down on top of him. The ultimate was too good, keeping him alive, and then to the back line goes Claire. He's got a huge shield to play with. Shock on the flank is going to be a factor in just a second. Biopan the